So more interesting developments have now risen from the United States and Donald Trump, with this round of Donald Trump's Canada versus United States fiasco, having him commenting on Canada's internal politics and the state of the federal election coming up, as well as the Liberal leadership race. And very interesting comments that many Liberals will probably not like, but will probably make the Conservative team in Canada very happy. And those comments are about Pierre Poilievre. When asked about Mr. Poilievre, Trump's reply, so let's set up the context here a little more properly. So when this Conservative news writer commented on Mr. Poilievre and the shifting so-called polls in Canada towards the Liberals, Trump's reply to this whole situation was that Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre, in order to so-called win the election, needs to more fully embrace Trump, which is odd because the whole reason that his supposed drop in the poll numbers is because people are perceiving him as not standing as strong on Canada's sovereignty, or they believe that he might sell out Canada to Mr. Trump and the Republican Party in the United States, which I happen to believe is not very true. Mr. Poilievre has set himself up as a very, very Canada first politician. In his own light, very similar to how Trump has set up his own America first. But that doesn't mean the two will find any cordiality between each other. And to read Trump's exact words, he said, I think his biggest problem is he's not a MAGA guy, you know. I mean, he's not really not. He's not a Trump guy at all. Pierre, I just don't know. I don't like what he's saying about me. It's just not positive about me. And this was interesting, to say the least, because it shines a light that the messaging that Mr. Poilievre and the Conservatives are putting through, that they are different from Trump, they are different than the Americans and the Republican Party in America, is starting to shine enough, so much so that it's starting to take Trump's attention away. And he's recognizing that, and he doesn't like that. And if we were to look at it from a Canadian perspective, it's a good thing, because it shows that there's a staunch line between the Trumpism in America and the Canadian right. The Canadian right, though there are Trump factors in the right here, like the Trump style of politics, it won't really ever seep through into Canada, as shown by what Mr. Poilievre is saying in his own rhetoric, and just how the general political scene is made up in Canada of generally being against that sort of Trump style of politics and the right in America. And now even more so with the threats that Trump is posing to Canada, it shows that it really won't get to that point where we are in the style of an American populist, having an American populist leader here. And another interesting thing from Mr. Trump's interview was that he actually commented on Miss Freeland. And he said that Mrs. Freeland, in his own words, is that she's terrible. I'll tell you what, I know her very well, Trump said. She only will cause ill will for Canada. In fact, Governor Trudeau understood that. I call him Governor. Governor Trudeau understood that. And he actually fired her because of a meeting he had with me. I said, she's so bad. She's bad for the country. So he went on further to comment that after being asked about who do you think is a good candidate for the nomination of the Liberals and who was going to get the nomination, Trump said that everyone's pretty nutty on that side of the Liberal Party, which, I mean, what he said about Freeland is pretty true. And as for the rest of the Liberals, I feel like, in terms of Frank Biles, he's a pretty good candidate for the Liberals. I think he'd be a great candidate. He would really, really rejuvenate that old liberal spirit of the red-blue liberal, the Tory liberal, which has been lost among the Liberal Party. But I think he's really just focusing on Freeland here, Trump. And I think we can all agree that Mrs. Freeland is very, very, very bad choice for the Canadian populace in terms of just having the Liberal leadership is not good for her and Canada. So what did Pierre Poilievre respond to in the way to Trump's comments? Mr. Poilievre said, "Mr. President, it is true. I'm not a MAGA. I am for Canada first, always. Canada has always been America's best friend and ally, but we will never be the 51st state." And I don't even care about Freeland's comments, but I'm going to actually go into another article here that I found interesting, is that Mrs. Freeland seems to be getting a bit more desperate in terms of her prospects of the Liberal Party race and becoming the Liberal Party leader. She's now even going against her own former party leader of 9 to 10 years, Justin Trudeau. Prime Minister, I mean. Party leader, he was longer than that. He was in party leadership for, I think, almost 13 years now. So, what she said about Justin Trudeau is that when asked about Trudeau by Mr. Bill Maher, if you might know, Mr. Maher is a big American talk show host who is very, very left-wing and very, very, in my words, I don't like the guy at all. He's very, very anti-family values, anti-religion, anti-everything, and I feel he's a poison. But more back to the focus, that when asked about the different questions about Canada and all that, when asked about Trudeau specifically, Mrs. Freeland said that she feels that the Liberals lost the public, opinion because Trudeau focused on virtue signaling and identity politics. And in that regard, she's right. That's true. People didn't feel that the Liberals brought up any substantiative policies to really help the Canadian population, and just focused on, the superficial stuff. And it is true, but it is also true that she was the one enabling those actions, being his right hand, Mr. Trudeau's right hand, for 9 to 10 years. She was there for the whole show, so why is she coming up now talking against it? She was there for most of it. She was there supporting it, enabling it, and being the biggest contributor to it. So it seems very, very desperate and ironic that she's now talking against it. And if the Liberals are so easy to turn against their own party leaders and their prime minister to get power, I don't really believe that they're going to be confident on their word when they if they ever become prime minister in the next couple of years. I feel that they're just going to turn and switch up on their words again, like Trudeau did when he was elected in 2015, where he said he was going to work for the middle class and cut taxes and make sure that every Canadian gets a fair, equal shot at becoming successful in this country. And he totally failed on that policy. He totally turned against the middle class and went down his own weird brand of liberalism. So I still don't trust the Liberal word at this point. I don't think the Canadian population should either. You've given them the chance for 9 to 10 years to make some big changes, and they didn't. They made the country worse off in terms of the economy, the GDP, the wages in this country have stagnated, and spending has outpaced everything. They say that the social investment they've made into the economy and the social programs, those have been good, but they haven't resulted in any growth for any sector or any, for people, for the micro and macro side of economics. They haven't done anything. Now, some might say that I'm just throwing, pulling points out of the air right now, but if you look at the facts, it's all there. The numbers are hard, and you can't deny that the country is in a worse off state than it was 9 to 10 years ago. And it was in a pretty bad state, I'd have to say. Just before Justin Trudeau came in, we were in a technical recession. But have things gotten better? No. This is what happens when you kind of veer off too far to the left and you start to forget about the core idea of governance, and that is the government is technically a very large business. You have to run it like a business, and that is just the nature of the beast. You have to ensure that, yes, we are spending, but that our spending is not getting out of control. Any person who works in a corporation or a business would understand this, and because their business would fail if they didn't control spending and they didn't make sure there was a balance between spending and revenues. So I think it's just very, very unwise for people to trust the Liberals right now at this moment and try to give them another mandate in power when they've already backtracked on so many promises and they've already made so many mistakes and blunders in this country. You need a reset sometimes, and this is the time for a reset. A change in leadership, a change in perspectives, because otherwise the status quo will not satisfy what is really needed for this country. But thank you again for watching. Have a wonderful day. Please leave your comments down below, and make sure to like, share, and subscribe, and make sure to mention your comments and your opinions down below. Thank you very much.